Test cricket was shining today, and it kind of came from nowhere. A test side we had kind of long forgotten about, and another team that seemed to have finally tripped on their very extravagant experiment. And then we saw a comeback, an upset, and a tense final day. In fact, we saw all of those things twice. So if you need a VPN, go Nord. Use nordvpn.com/Kimber to get a huge discount off your Nord VPN plan, plus 4 additional months for free. It's completely risk-free with Nord's 30-day money-back guarantee. The link is in the show notes. Protect your computer like a cricketer protects its nether region with NordVPN today. I hate when people say, Test cricket isn't dying. Look, we just had this incredible test match. It's like when people say global warming isn't true because yesterday was a little bit chillier than normal. Tests won't be saved by great days. That's not how the world works, and partly I know that because Test cricket has had a lot of magnificent days, more so in the last few years because we play a lot more test matches now. It has had so many glorious moments, and it's still in the same position. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't stop and enjoy them in their fullness. To get 2 matches as strange, beautiful, tense, confusing, and enjoyable in the one day, overlapping and intertwining like 2 long-lost lovers, is just an incredible moment for our sport. We don't always get a single match like this, let alone 2 in the same day. So stop, take a moment, let it actually wash over you a little bit, because this was Test cricket at its best. Ollie Pope and Alzarri Joseph had some redemption. They both had things to overcome, right? Like there was a moment when India started this chase and the heavy roller meant that the wicket looked a little bit flat. And I thought, well, if England lose, Pope's innings is just going to drift away. It'll be written off as kind of a nothing knock. And this is a guy who a couple of years ago could not play spin. He turns up in India and the first innings he is, limp. He might be England's vice captain, but who had money on him making the last test, let alone the third? So he fights back, and he just keeps going through lunch, tea and stumps, past killer Bumrah spells, disrupting India's finest spinners with reverse sweeps and dill scoops, and reverse dill scoops. No matter what he does from here, no one is going to forget that knock from now. And what about Alzarri Joseph? It's got to the point that even when you mention his name now, people can't wait to tell you what a fraud he is. And at his best, he looks every bit like an international bowler, but it almost feels like he is never at his best. In fact, in Australia, he had played 3 matches and taken 6 wickets there. But in this game, he slogged really, really hard and then followed it up by ripping out Australia's top order. It's the kind of performance that he flirts with often, but usually ends up ghosting. This time, it actually happened. And to start this final day, what did he do? He got the first wicket of Usman Khawaja, and then later on he got Nathan Lyon when it really mattered. And he ended up doubling his wicket tally in Australia from a single match. And what about Steve Smith and R. Ashwin? 2 legends well before they even worry about retirement, who were on the wrong side of their battle. Smith is the mad bastard who is approaching old age for batters and thinks to himself, why don't I start opening? People were already looking at his early results with a bit of side-eye of suspicion, and the only reason he wasn't getting absolutely roasted is because he is a silly man to doubt. So what does he do? The 4th time he opens in Test cricket, he carries his bat in an unsuccessful chase, doing 2 things: scoring runs in the 4th innings, which he almost never does, and boosting his opening average to 60, because of course he does. And what about R. Ashwin, who suddenly found himself down the order without one of his trusty spin friends to help out? So he blocked the ball around until England lost control of a game they were completely in control of. Then he had to battle shadows on the pitch, a fragile tail, and the 30 minutes or less extra time that was added to the end of the day. Then he finished with the sort of run down the wicket, swipe and miss that we expect from England when facing him. Says, I don't even know what it says, but it's crazy. And what about the winning teams? The West Indies last won in Australia when kids wanted Beanie Babies for Christmas. Many of the West Indian team weren't even alive back then. They don't know what a Beanie Baby is. This team was once the kings of the bouncy Australian tracks, and for years they have been little more than stocking filler, the kind of gift that you get but you forget to actually fully unwrap. This team of random dudes not called Jason Holder made Carl Hooper and Brian Lara cry, in a good way. And what about the other mob, England? You probably wouldn't cry with this game when it comes to England. It just brings awe and joy. In fact, even when Bazball fails, England are just brilliant to watch. And that's just still not a sentence that makes a lot of sense for someone who's grown up watching their previous teams. They're just absolutely, fabulously crazy. On day 1, they said they're above par. On day 2, they said they bowled well. And we all laughed, but their cult-like positivity is a superpower someday. And you can keep drinking the Kool-Aid when you can pull off the 10th biggest comeback in terms of mid-innings deficits ever against a bowling lineup of guys lining up to be on India's Mount Rushmore of bowling. And all of that is great, but it's probably not even the best storylines that happen today. That would have to be Tom Hartley and Shamar Joseph, 2 players with less experience in the middle than a standard Pujara 100. Hartley was picked over other pros who actually had experience and should have been out there. Then he was given the new ball on a dare, but couldn't land it anywhere near where he was trying to. India tried to end him from the first delivery he bowled, but he just stuck around. And when India were finally under pressure, this part-timer with 40 first-class wickets in his first 20 games ran through India like he was Bishan Bedi stretched out into a new shape. Not to mention that he also made runs in both innings and got a run out. I am pretty sure in this test he grew an inch and can now play the banjo with his tongue. He had the Jason Krejci game, but in a win. And that is still not the most amazing story out of this day. Shamar Joseph needed his community to help him even get the attention of West Indies cricket. Curtly Ambrose stumbled into this young man who was destined to be working in the Guyanese logging industry and somehow changed his life. The West Indies have barely seen him play, and that is because he has barely played. So they chose him to come to Australia, where he should be shredded into pieces by hometown bullies on flat tracks. Yet before he even got the ball in his hand, he wins the locals over when he's holding the bat. Then it takes him 1 ball to make him a cult hero when he takes Steve Smith. Then he becomes a proper hero when he picks up a 5-wicket haul like he's just picking up some OJ on the way home. And that was all in his first test. And somehow in his second, he has already outdone that. This kid had to be taken from the field when Mitch Starc basically removed one of his toes for him. And then he came out to bowl anyway. And of course he did, because for the longest time, no one even knew he existed. He might be young, but in his worldview, he has waited a lifetime for this. So he bowls this endless spell with 9 healthy toes, and he beats Australia at the Gabba. He is pure joy in fast bowler form. And all of this different stuff, and so much more, you could go through all the West Indies stuff, happened on one day. When it comes to our life as cricket fans, we get caught up in the silly feuds and the politics and the future speculation and the impending doom all the time. But sometimes there is a day that just stops all that. That brings you nothing but joy. T20s and ODIs are made for close finishes. While Test cricket is designed, well, not even designed, it is just a sport that has morphed into this twisted game that you almost have to be sick to love because there are almost no close finishes. It demands of everyone, the players, the fans, the media, to be patient, to put in the hours, the weeks, the months, sometimes the years, so that you might get one day, if you're lucky, that has this incredible building momentum that makes you feel so weird in your body that you can't sit still or even just leave your feet comfortably on the ground. Because this match has made you tingle, and you have earned all of this because of all those boring sessions and one-sided matches and games that fizzled out that you still dedicated your time to. The 5-day game makes you crawl through broken glass in a snake pit to get a feeling like we got today. And there were 2 of them. West Indies won with a pink ball at night. England won in the shadows. It is dark sometimes for Test cricket. But every now and then, if we dig in and get to lunch, bat through a tricky spell in the middle, and fight tiredness at dusk, we get a slither of the most beautiful sunshine anyone has ever seen. Test cricket does not make it easy. And that's the point.
Thanks to the kind folks at FlexiSpot for looking after my office and my butt by sending me their E7 Pro desk that save your favorite desk heights at a touch of a button. You don't have to crank anything. This thing just finds the height that you like and you can work. And their BS12 Pro chair that supports my posterior while I'm recording, well, this ad and all my shows. If you need great desks, especially ones that change heights or the best quality chairs, head on over to FlexiSpot today.